Welcome back to Tina Romance Library, where powerful alphas fall hard, and the women they underestimate change everything. Every story here is complete, immersive, and emotion-driven. No cliffhangers, no rushed endings, just full romances you can sink into. So if you love possessive alphas, strong heroines who don't beg, slow burn tension, emotional payoffs, and stories that actually finish, you're in the right place. I need you to join the pack right now by subscribing. Leave a like if you enjoy immersive romance, and settle in because once the story begins, we don't stop until the ending. Now, let's get into it. I stared at the ring on my finger like it was something dead, because in a way, it was. It wasn't platinum or white gold. I never bothered to ask. What did it matter? You don't ask questions about the chains they put on you. You just wear them. You smile when you're supposed to smile. You stand where you're told to stand. And you survive. That's what I told myself every morning when I woke up next to Marcus Blackwell. Survive today. Protect Lily. Feel nothing. 3 rules. Simple, clean. The kind of thing you can repeat in your head when his hand closes around your wrist a little too tight, or when he leans in close at dinner and whispers something that makes your skin crawl, all while smiling at the people across the table like he's the most devoted fiancé in the world. That ring wasn't a promise. It was a receipt. Proof of purchase. Proof that my father's debts had been paid not in cash, but in me. My body. My future. My silence. Marcus had bought all of it, and he wore his ownership like a second skin, comfortable, entitled, permanent. And I wore that ring like a scar. People think you'd fight something like that. Scream, run, burn the world down rather than let someone take your life and remake it into something you don't recognize. But here's what they don't tell you about survival. Sometimes fighting costs more than surrendering. Sometimes the person you're protecting isn't yourself. Lily was 16, smart, beautiful. Still believed the world could be kind if you were kind enough first. She had college applications spread across her bedroom floor, and dreams bigger than the small town we grew up in. She had a future. I wasn't going to let Marcus take that from her too. So I stayed. I played the part, the doting fiancé, the woman who gazed at him across crowded rooms with something that could pass for affection if you didn't look too closely. I learned how to make my face blank, how to turn my body into something smooth and unreachable, even when he touched me, especially when he touched me. I stopped feeling things, or at least I tried to. But then there were moments, small, traitorous moments, when I'd see a couple laughing in a coffee shop, or holding hands while they walked through the park, and something inside me would crack open just a little, just enough to hurt. I didn't believe in love. How could I? Love was the fairy tale they sold you to make you forget that most people were just transactions waiting to happen. Love didn't pay debts. Love didn't keep your baby sister safe from men like Marcus, who collected people the way other men collected cars. But God, sometimes I ached for it anyway. That nameless thing, that lightness I saw in other people's eyes, the kind of touch that didn't come with conditions, the kind of future that wasn't already written in someone else's handwriting. I ached for it the way you ache for something you've never had and know you never will. And then came the winter summit. Aimaken. Marcus's hand was on my arm before we even got out of the car, not holding, gripping. His fingers pressed into the soft flesh just above my elbow hard enough to remind me, gentle enough that no one else would notice. Smile, he murmured as the valet opened my door. His voice was soft, almost tender. That's what made it worse. You represent me tonight. Don't embarrass me. I smiled. God help me. I smiled like I meant it. The summit was being held at the Thornwild Estate, a sprawling mansion built into the side of a mountain, all stone and timber and glass that reflected the snow-covered pines like something out of a dream. It was beautiful. It was suffocating. And it was full of wolves. I'm not talking metaphorically. I mean wolves, shifters. The people Marcus did business with weren't entirely human, and tonight they weren't pretending to be. The air itself felt different here, charged with something wild and old and dangerous. Power hummed beneath every conversation, every glance, every laugh that echoed through the vaulted halls. I'd been to events like this before. Marcus dragged me to them regularly, like proof of his status. Look what I own. Look how well trained she is. But tonight felt different, bigger. The alphas from packs across 3 states were here, and the energy in the room was almost visible, like heat waves rising off summer asphalt. I felt small, and I felt alert in a way I hadn't felt in months. Marcus paraded me through the crowd like I was jewelry. His hand never left my body. My arm, my waist, the small of my back. Always touching, always claiming. He introduced me to people whose names I immediately forgot, whose eyes slid over me like I wasn't worth remembering. My fiancé, he'd say, and the word tasted like poison in the air between us. I nodded. I smiled. I let him pull me close when he wanted to whisper something in my ear. Little cruelties dressed up as endearments. Stand up straighter. You look tired. Try to be more engaging, darling. Darling. The word was a slap every single time. I practiced my stillness. That thing I'd gotten so good at, turning myself into stone. Smooth, unbreakable, untouchable. I floated through the evening like a ghost in a cocktail dress, and I told myself I was fine. I told myself I was surviving. And then I felt it. Heat. Not the stuffy warmth of too many bodies in an enclosed space. Something else. Something that started at the base of my spine and spread upward like wildfire, making every nerve ending in my body suddenly, impossibly awake. Awareness. Someone was watching me. Not the way Marcus watched me like a thing he owned. Not the way the other guests glanced at me like a pretty accessory. This was different. This felt like being seen. Like someone had reached across the crowded room and touched the part of me I kept hidden, the part I'd convinced myself didn't exist anymore. My breath caught. I turned, scanning the crowd, trying to find the source of this feeling that had wrapped around me like a hand sliding up my throat. Not choking, but there, undeniable. And that's when I saw him. He was standing near the windows, half in shadow, and even from across the room I could feel the weight of his gaze. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair that looked like he'd run his hands through it too many times. And eyes, God, even from this distance, I could feel those eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made my knees weak. He wasn't looking at me the way men usually looked at me. He was looking at me like he knew me, like he'd been searching for me, like I was the answer to a question he'd been asking his whole life. The room seemed to tilt. The noise of the party faded to nothing. There was only him. Only this pull that I didn't understand, couldn't explain, didn't want. No. I tore my gaze away, my heart hammering against my ribs like it was trying to escape my chest. Marcus was saying something beside me, but I couldn't hear him. Couldn't focus. All I could feel was that heat, that presence, still burning against my skin. Feel nothing, I reminded myself desperately. You're supposed to feel nothing, but it was too late. Something had shifted. Some door I'd locked and bolted had just been kicked open, and I didn't know if I'd ever be able to close it again. I risked one more glance. He was still watching me, and this time he smiled. Not a smile like Marcus's calculated, cold, designed to make you feel small. This was something else entirely. Slow. Knowing. Like he'd just found something he'd been missing and wasn't planning on letting it go. My stomach dropped. I forced myself to look away again, to focus on Marcus's voice, on the conversation happening around me, but my skin was burning. Every cell in my body was screaming at me to turn back, to look again, to understand what the hell had just happened. Nothing happened, I told myself firmly. A stranger looked at you. That's all. But I was lying. And I knew it, because I could still feel him. That awareness hadn't faded, it had intensified. Like a cord pulled tight between us, vibrating with tension. I'd never believed in that supernatural stuff. The mate bonds and fated connections that Marcus's shifter associates talked about when they'd had too much whiskey. It was folklore, romance novel nonsense. The kind of thing that didn't exist in the real world where men traded women like property. But this felt like being found. And that terrified me more than anything Marcus had ever done. "Excuse me." The voice came from behind me, deep, rough around the edges like gravel and honey mixed together, and close. So close I could feel the warmth of him at my back. Marcus's fingers tightened on my waist. Possessive, warning. I turned, and there he was. Up close, he was devastating. Not handsome in the polished, manufactured way Marcus was handsome. This was something raw, more real. Sharp cheekbones and a jaw that looked like it had been carved from stone. Dark hair that fell across his forehead, slightly too long, like he couldn't be bothered with things like haircuts. And those eyes gray like storm clouds, like steel, like something ancient and wild barely contained in human form. They locked onto mine, and the world stopped. Time didn't just slow, it distorted. The noise of the party became underwater sounds. The people around us blurred into shadows. There was only him, only this moment where his gaze hit me like gravity, pulling me toward something I didn't understand and couldn't resist. My breath stuttered in my chest. My body responded before my mind could catch up, heart racing, skin flushing, something deep in my core waking up after years of forced sleep. And I hated it. Hated how easily he'd gotten past my defenses. Hated how my body was betraying every rule I'd made to keep myself safe. This is dangerous, I thought desperately. Kings don't look at girls like me. And men who look at you like that always want something. Cale Varn, Marcus said, and I heard the tension in his voice. Felt him pull me closer against his side. I didn't realize you'd be attending tonight. Last-minute decision. The stranger Cale didn't look at Marcus when he spoke. His eyes stayed on me, unwavering, intense, like I was the only thing in the room worth his attention. "I'm glad I came." The words hung in the air between us, heavy with meaning. Marcus laughed. It sounded forced. "Well, this is my fiancé." "Don't," Cale said quietly. The single word cut through Marcus's introduction like a blade. The temperature in our small circle seemed to drop 10 degrees. I felt Marcus go rigid beside me, felt the fury rolling off him in waves. But Cale still wasn't looking at him. "Don't leave," he said, and he was talking to me. Only me. "Please." It wasn't a command, it was a request. A plea wrapped in that rough, steady voice that did something strange to my insides, made them feel liquid and trembling and alive in a way I'd almost forgotten. I should have said something. Should have let Marcus handle this. Should have played my part like I always did. But my voice had disappeared. My throat had closed around any words I might have formed. All I could do was stare at him. And in that moment of silence, Cale did something that made my breath catch all over again. He moved. Just a slight shift in position, but suddenly he was standing between me and the crowd, not touching me, not even close to touching me. But his body was angled in a way that felt protective, shielding, like he was putting himself between me and danger, like he was the safe place. The thought was so absurd I almost laughed. I didn't know this man, didn't know anything about him except that he was clearly powerful. You could see it in the way other people in the room watched him, gave him space, showed him deference. And powerful men were never safe. They were just better at hiding the teeth before they bit. "Your name," he said, softer now, gentler. "Tell me your name." "She doesn't," Marcus started. "Tell me," Cale repeated, and this time there was steel beneath the velvet, a command that made something in my bones want to obey. "Elena," I whispered, and I hated how breathless I sounded. "Elena Thorne." He repeated it, slowly, like he was tasting each syllable, learning the shape of it in his mouth. "Elena." No one had ever said my name like that before, like it was something precious, something worth savoring. My heart was doing things it had no business doing, tripping over itself, racing, betraying me. "We should go," Marcus said tightly. His hand moved from my waist to my arm, the same spot he'd gripped in the car. I felt his fingers dig in, felt the promise of bruises later. Elena isn't feeling well. That's not what I asked her. Cale's eyes finally left mine, sliding to Marcus, and the look in them made me shiver. Cold, predatory. Is it Elena? Are you unwell? The question was simple. The answer should have been simple too. Yes, I'm tired. We're leaving. But the words wouldn't come, because I wasn't unwell. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt awake. Every nerve ending was firing. Every sense was heightened. I could smell pine and winter air and something else. Something wild and clean that was coming from Cale. I could feel the heat of him even though he wasn't touching me. Could hear the steady rhythm of his breathing. Slow and controlled, like he was working very hard to stay calm. I'm fine, I heard myself say. Marcus's grip tightened. Pain flared up my arm, and Cale's eyes dropped to where Marcus was holding me. The temperature in the room didn't just drop this time. It plummeted. I saw something flicker across Cale's face, something dark and dangerous and barely restrained. His jaw clenched, his hands curled into fists at his sides. But when he spoke, his voice was perfectly controlled. Let her go. I know exactly what she is. Cale took a step closer, and suddenly he seemed bigger, taller, more. The air around him felt charged, electric. And I'm telling you to take your hand off her, now. For a moment, I thought Marcus might actually do it, might back down. I could feel him calculating, weighing his options, trying to figure out if this was a fight he could win. Then his fingers released. I almost gasped at the relief. We'll speak later, Marcus said, his voice tight with barely suppressed rage. He looked at me. Come, now. This was it. The moment where I was supposed to obey. Where I followed him like I always did. Where I remembered my place and my rules and the person I was protecting. But I didn't move. I couldn't. Because Cale was watching me with those storm-gray eyes, and there was something in them, something that looked like hope mixed with desperation, mixed with a question I didn't know how to answer. Elena. Marcus's voice was a warning. Give us a moment, Cale said. Not a request this time. A statement of fact. She's my fiancée. I don't care. The words were flat, final, and the authority in them made Marcus take an actual step back. I watched, stunned, as Marcus's face went through a series of expressions, rage, calculation, and finally something like fear. He looked at Cale the way you'd look at a predator. Then he looked at me, and I saw the promise in his eyes. You'll pay for this later. But he left. He actually turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd and leaving me alone with this stranger, who had somehow made Marcus Blackwell, who had owned me for 6 months, back down with nothing but words and presence. The silence between us felt enormous. He hurt you, Cale said quietly. Not a question. I looked down at my arm. Red marks were already forming where Marcus's fingers had been. They'd fade to bruises by morning. I was used to it. It's nothing, I said automatically. It's not nothing. His voice had gone rough again, angry. But not at me. I could feel that somehow. The anger was directed at Marcus, at the situation, at the marks on my skin. How long? How long what? How long has he been hurting you? I should have lied. Should have protected Marcus's reputation the way I'd been trained to do. Should have smiled and changed the subject and found a way to leave before this conversation went any further. Instead, I laughed. It came out bitter and broken. Nothing like real laughter. You really want to know? Since the beginning. Since my father sold me to him to pay off a debt he couldn't cover any other way. Since I put on this ring and learned that some cages come with diamonds. Cale's hands clenched again at his sides. I watched the muscles in his jaw work as he processed what I'd said. You don't love him. Another statement, not a question. Love? I held up my hand, let him see the ring in all its cold, glittering glory. This isn't love. Love doesn't come with bruises. Love doesn't feel like drowning. This is just survival. He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was low, careful. What's your sister's name? I froze. What? You're protecting someone. I can see it. The way you hold yourself. The way you stayed even when you wanted to run. There's someone you're protecting. His eyes searched mine. Who is she? Tears burned at the back of my throat. I couldn't remember the last time someone had looked at me and actually seen me. Not the pretty accessory. Not the obedient fiancé. Me. The broken girl underneath, trying so hard to keep the one person she loved safe. Lily, I whispered. Her name is Lily. She's 16, and she doesn't know about any of this. I won't let her know. Cale moved then, just his hand, lifting slowly like he was afraid I might bolt. His fingers brushed my wrist, not where Marcus had grabbed me, but just above it, the gentlest touch. His thumb traced over my pulse point, and I felt my heartbeat stutter and race beneath his skin. You're not alone anymore, he said. 4 words. That's all it took for something inside me to crack wide open. Because I had been alone. For so long. Pretending to be fine, to be strong, to be unbreakable. Carrying the weight of Lily's future and my own fear and Marcus's cruelty all by myself. And here was this stranger, this alpha, this king, based on the way people looked at him, telling me I didn't have to be. You don't know me, I managed. But my voice was shaking. Not yet. His thumb was still moving against my wrist. Slow circles that made my skin feel like it was on fire. But I will. I'm going to know everything, Elena. And then I'm going to make sure no one ever hurts you again. It should have sounded possessive, controlling, like Marcus's promises that always came with conditions and pain. But it didn't. It sounded like a vow. I stared at him, trying to process words that felt too big, too impossible. My wrist was still burning where his thumb traced those slow, devastating circles. My heart wouldn't stop its frantic rhythm. And some part of me, the part I'd buried deep, the part that still remembered how to want things, was screaming at me to believe him. But I'd learned not to trust beautiful promises. You don't mean that, I said, pulling my hand back. The loss of contact felt like tearing skin. You don't even know me. I know enough. He let me go, but his eyes never left mine. I know you're protecting someone you love, at the cost of yourself. I know you're strong enough to survive something that should have broken you. I know that when you walked into this room, something in me recognized something in you. That's not... I shook my head, took a step back. That doesn't happen. Not to people like me. What does that mean? People like you? Human. The word came out sharp, defensive. I'm human, Cale. I'm not part of your world. I'm nobody. Just a girl whose father had bad luck and worse judgment, who got sold off to pay a debt. There's nothing special about me. The look he gave me then made my breath catch. It wasn't pity. It wasn't condescension. It was something fiercer. Something that looked almost like anger, but directed at every person who'd ever made me believe I was worthless. You're my mate, he said simply. The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually stumbled backward, my hand coming up to my chest like I could stop the sudden ache blooming there. No, that doesn't happen. Humans don't have mates. We don't feel those bonds. You're feeling it right now. He was right. God help me, he was right. That pull, that warmth spreading through my chest like honey, like sunlight, like something I didn't have words for. The way my body leaned toward him even as my mind screamed at me to run. The invisible thread I'd felt the moment our eyes met across the room, now pulling tighter, stronger, impossible to ignore. This is insane, I whispered. I don't even believe in this stuff. Your belief doesn't change what's true. He took a step closer, slow, careful, like he was approaching something wild that might bolt. I felt you the moment you entered this house, Elena. Before I saw you, before I knew your name, my wolf recognized you, and I've spent the last 10 minutes trying to understand how I survived 32 years without you. My throat was tight. My eyes were burning. You can't just say things like that. Why not? Because I'm engaged to someone else. Because my life is already decided. Because... My voice cracked. Because I can't afford to hope for things that aren't real. This is real. He was close now. So close I could see the flecks of silver in his gray eyes. could smell that pine and wild winter scent that seemed to wrap around me like a promise. This feeling, this pull between us, the way your heart is racing right now, not from fear, but from recognition. You feel it, Elena. I know you do. I did. That was the terrifying part. I felt everything he was describing and more. Felt like I'd been walking through fog my entire life, and he was the first clear thing I'd ever seen. Felt like every breath before this moment had been shallow, and now my lungs were finally learning how to fill. It was overwhelming, terrifying, dangerous. Even if that's true, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. It doesn't matter. I can't. Marcus won't. Marcus doesn't own you. He has a contract, my father's signature, legal documentation that says, I don't care what papers say. There was steel in his voice now. Authority, the kind of power that made alphas and lesser beings bend. You're mine, Elena. Mine to protect, mine to care for, mine to... Elena. Marcus's voice cut through the space between us like a whip crack. I flinched. Couldn't help it. My whole body went rigid, shoulders drawing up, head ducking slightly in that automatic response I'd learned over months of conditioning. And Cale saw it. I watched his expression change. Watched something dark and primal flash across his face there 1 second, controlled the next. But I'd seen it. That split second where the human mask slipped and something else looked out. Something with teeth and fury and a barely restrained violence that should have scared me. It didn't, because it wasn't directed at me. Elena. Marcus was walking toward us now, his stride purposeful, his smile tight. Other people were watching. I could feel their eyes, their curiosity, their judgment. I've been looking for you, darling. We need to leave. She's not going anywhere with you. Cale's voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that came before storms. He moved as he spoke, just a shift in position that put him directly between me and Marcus, creating a wall with his body. A barrier. No one had ever done that before. No one had ever put themselves between me and danger. I'd always been the shield, the one who took the hits so Lily didn't have to, the one who stood between her and our father's bad decisions, between her and Marcus's world, between her and everything that could hurt her. But now Cale was standing between me and Marcus, and something in my chest pulled so tight I thought it might snap. Marcus stopped a few feet away. His eyes moved from Cale to me, and I saw the calculation there. The rage beneath the civilized surface. This is a private matter between me and my fiancé. She's not your fiancé. Cale's voice dropped lower, rougher. I could hear the wolf in it now, that inhuman edge. Not anymore. We have a contract, made under duress, to pay a debt that wasn't hers to begin with, using her as collateral like she's property instead of a person. Cale took a step forward, and Marcus actually backed up. Tell me, Blackwell, does that contract mention the bruises, the control, the way you've spent the last 6 months systematically breaking her down? The room had gone silent. I could feel it, the shift in energy, the sudden attention of everyone within earshot. Wolves had good hearing. They were all listening now. Marcus's face went red. You have no right. I have every right. Another step forward. Cale's shoulders seemed broader somehow, his presence bigger. She's my mate. Which means every mark you've put on her skin, every cruel word, every moment of pain you've caused her, all of it is a crime against my mate, against me. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The word mate was echoing in my head, bouncing around my skull like something alive. He'd said it in front of everyone. Made it public, made it real. Marcus laughed, but it sounded forced. Nervous. That's impossible. She's human. She's mine. The way he said it sent shivers down my spine. Not possessive like Marcus's ownership. This was something older, something that came from a place deep in his bones where the wolf lived, a claiming that had nothing to do with contracts or rings or control, and everything to do with recognition and protection and belonging. This is ridiculous. Marcus looked past Cale, fixing me with a glare that promised retribution. Elena, we're leaving, now. My mouth opened, but no sound came out, because I was caught between two impossibilities. Stay with Marcus and keep Lily safe, or trust this stranger who looked at me like I was something precious, something worth fighting for. There's no choice, I thought desperately. You know what Marcus will do if you defy him. You know what he'll take from you. But Cale was still standing there, still blocking Marcus from getting to me, and he turned his head just slightly, not looking away from Marcus completely, but enough that I could see his face. You're safe, he said quietly, just to me. I promise you, Elena, you're safe now. I wanted to believe him, wanted it so badly it physically hurt. She has nowhere to go, Marcus said. No money, no family except a sister who depends on her father's goodwill and mine by extension. He smiled, and it was cruel. Where do you think little Lily will end up if Elena breaks our agreement? Fear lanced through me, sharp and cold. He knew. Of course he knew. Marcus always knew where the weak points were, where to apply pressure to make people bend. Lily will be fine. Cale's voice was hard as stone. She'll be under my pack's protection as of tonight. Anyone who touches her answers to me. I actually swayed on my feet. He was doing it. Right here, in front of everyone. He was dismantling every chain Marcus had wrapped around me, taking away the leverage, the threats, the control, giving me a choice I thought I'd never have. Marcus's expression turned vicious. You think you can just take what's mine? She's wearing my ring. Not for long. Cale turned to me then, fully, giving me his complete attention while chaos and confrontation swirled around us. I'm taken, I whispered. It was the last defense I had, the last wall between me and this terrifying, beautiful possibility he was offering. He moved closer, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off him, warming skin that had been cold for so long. No, he said softly. You're not. And then he reached for my left hand. I should have pulled away, should have protected myself, protected the illusion, protected the cage I'd learned to live in. But I didn't move, couldn't move, could barely breathe as his fingers, so much bigger than mine, so much gentler than I'd expected, wrapped around my hand. He looked down at the ring, that diamond and platinum receipt, that price tag Marcus had slipped onto my finger 6 months ago while whispering promises that turned to poison. When Cale looked back up at me, there was a question in his eyes. He was asking permission. This alpha, this king, this man who could probably take anything he wanted by force, he was asking if I'd let him free me. My heart was breaking, reforming, breaking again, because I'd spent so long not hoping, not wanting, not believing in rescue or safety or the possibility that someone might actually choose me instead of using me. And here he was, asking for nothing but the chance to give me everything. I nodded, barely, just the smallest dip of my chin. It was enough. His fingers found the ring, warm against my cold skin. I felt him slide it up my finger slowly, carefully, like he knew how much this moment meant, how much weight this simple action carried. The metal left my skin, and I could breathe again. Really breathe, like oxygen had suddenly remembered how to reach my lungs. Cale held the ring up between us for a moment. Let me see it. Let the room see it. Then he turned and held it out to Marcus. Not anymore, he said. Those 2 words cracked something open inside me. Something that had been locked and buried and protected for so long I'd forgotten it was there. Hope. Dangerous, terrifying, beautiful hope. I started crying. Couldn't help it. Tears spilled down my cheeks, not sad tears, not exactly happy ones either. Something more complicated. Relief and fear and grief for who I'd had to become, and joy for who I might get to be instead, all tangled together. And Cale, this man who'd known me for less than an hour, reached up and caught my tears with his thumb. You're free, he said. And God help me. I believed him. Marcus didn't take the ring. He just stood there, his face cycling through expressions, rage, disbelief, humiliation. Around us, I could feel the room holding its breath, waiting, watching this public dismantling of a man who'd built his reputation on control. You've made an enemy tonight, Varn, Marcus said finally, his voice low and venomous. I don't forget things like this. Good. Kale's voice was flat, empty of emotion. Remember it every time you think about coming near her again. Remember the moment you lost. Remember that she was never yours to begin with. For a second, just one terrible second, I thought Marcus might actually attack. I saw his body tense, saw his hands curl into fists, but then someone cleared their throat behind him. An older wolf with silver hair and the kind of presence that suggested rank. "I think it's time you left, Blackwell," the man said quietly, "before this becomes more embarrassing than it already is." Marcus's jaw worked. His eyes found mine one last time, and the hatred there was palpable, real, the kind of thing that promised consequences. Then he turned and walked away. The crowd parted for him like water, and as he disappeared through the doors, I felt something inside me finally, truly break the last thread of fear that had kept me tethered to him, to that life, to the girl who'd learned to survive by becoming small. My legs started shaking. The adrenaline that had been holding me upright suddenly drained away, and I swayed. Kale's hand was there instantly, steadying me at the elbow. The same place Marcus had grabbed earlier, but this touch was different. Supporting, asking permission just by how gently his fingers rested against my skin. "I need to sit down," I whispered. "Okay." His voice was soft now. All that alpha command had melted away, leaving just concern. "Can you walk?" I nodded, but my body was trembling so hard I wasn't sure it was true. Kale didn't hesitate. He slid his arm around my waist, careful, respectful, but solid enough to take most of my weight, and guided me toward a quieter corner of the room. People moved out of our way. Some were staring. Others were whispering behind their hands. I didn't care. I couldn't care about anything except the fact that the ring was gone. Marcus was gone. And I was still standing. We reached a small alcove with a cushioned bench. Kale helped me sit, then knelt in front of me. Actually knelt, bringing himself lower than me, making himself less threatening, even though I was pretty sure nothing about this man could ever truly be unthreatening. He looked up at me, his gray eyes searching my face. "Breathe, Elena. Just breathe." I tried. God, I tried. But my chest felt too tight, my lungs too small. The tears wouldn't stop coming, and my hands were shaking so badly I had to clasp them together to make it stop. "I'm sorry," I gasped out. "I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm—" "Don't." His hands came up, cupping my face with a gentleness that made me cry harder. His thumbs brushed away tears as fast as they fell. "Don't apologize. You just walked away from your abuser in front of a room full of strangers. You're allowed to fall apart." "I don't fall apart." The words came out automatically. A rule I'd lived by for so long it was carved into my bones. I have to be strong. I have to. "You don't have to be anything right now." He leaned closer, his voice dropping so low only I could hear it. "Not strong, not brave, not okay. You can just be, Elena. I've got you." The words broke something loose inside me. I'd been holding it together for so long. Months of pretending, surviving, protecting. Months of being the strong one, the one who took the hits and kept going because Lily needed me to. But here was someone saying I didn't have to do that anymore. Here was someone offering to carry the weight. A sob tore out of my throat, then another. And suddenly I was crying an earnest, ugly, desperate crying that made my shoulders shake and my breath hitch. The kind of crying I'd never let myself do before, because there'd been no one to catch me when I fell. But Kale didn't move, didn't pull away, didn't look uncomfortable or try to stop me. He just held my face in his hands and let me shatter. "I've got you," he repeated, quiet and steady as stone. "I've got you, and I'm not letting go." I don't know how long I cried. Minutes. Hours. Time felt strange and elastic. But eventually the storm passed, leaving me wrung out and exhausted and strangely lighter. I pulled back a little, embarrassed now. My face had to be a mess. My makeup was probably ruined, and I'd just had a complete breakdown in front of an alpha I'd known for less than an hour. "Sorry," I muttered, not quite able to meet his eyes. That was overdue. Kale's hand slid from my face to my shoulders, grounding, warm. and nothing to apologize for. I risked looking at him. His expression was open, concerned, no judgment, no irritation at my weakness. Just care. It was so foreign I almost didn't recognize it. Lily, I said suddenly, the fear crashing back over me like a wave. You said she'd be protected, but Marcus knows where she lives. My father's house. If he goes there, he won't get near her. Cale's voice hardened to steel. I sent riders the moment I understood the situation. They'll reach your sister before Marcus makes it out of the parking lot. She'll be safe, Elena. I swear it. I stared at him. You already sent people? The second you told me about her, while you were still talking. He gave me a small, wry smile. I'm an alpha. I know how to handle multiple things at once. And protecting my mate's family is priority one. My mate. The words still made my heart stutter. Why? The question came out raw, confused. Why are you doing all this? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. I know enough. His hand slid down my arms to take my hands in his. His fingers were warm, careful not to press on the places where bruises were forming. And you're mine, Elena. That means your safety, your sister's safety, your happiness. All of it matters to me. More than politics, more than alliances, more than anything else in this room. I wanted to argue, wanted to point out how insane this was, how fast, how impossible. But I couldn't, because deep in my chest, that pull was still there, stronger now, like invisible threads connecting us, weaving tighter with every word, every touch, every moment we spent in each other's orbit. What happens now? I whispered. Now we get you somewhere safe, somewhere comfortable, and we start figuring out what comes next. He squeezed my hands gently. But only when you're ready. We move at your pace, Elena. Not mine. Not anyone else's. Yours. The kindness in those words made my throat tight all over again. I don't have anywhere to go, I admitted. Everything I own is at Marcus's house. My clothes, my things. We'll replace them. All of it. Cale said it like it was simple, easy. You don't need anything from that place. We start fresh. I don't have money. You have me. He leaned forward, catching my eyes and holding them. And I have more than enough for both of us. You don't need to worry about money or safety or shelter ever again. That's my job now. It should have felt suffocating, like trading one cage for another, one man's control for another's. But it didn't. Maybe because he kept saying your pace, kept asking permission with his eyes even when his words were confident, kept giving me choices where Marcus had only given ultimatums. Okay, I said softly. Relief flooded his features. Okay? Okay. I'll come with you. Let you help. Figure this out. I swallowed hard. But I need to see Lily, as soon as possible. I need to know she's safe. Tomorrow morning. Cale stood, pulling me gently to my feet with him. I'll have her brought to the palace at first light. You can see for yourself that she's unharmed. The palace? I blinked. You live in a palace? A smile tugged at his mouth. The first real smile I'd seen from him, and it transformed his face. Made him look younger, less intimidating. I'm the Northern Alpha King. Palace kind of comes with the territory. Oh my God. The reality of the situation was hitting me in waves. You're not just an alpha, you're the alpha. And we just breathed. He finished for me. We just breathed, Elena. That's all. Everything else we'll figure out as we go. I yesed. The palace was an hour's drive into the mountains. I spent most of it staring out the window of Cale's SUV, watching the city lights give way to dark forest and snow-covered peaks. He'd offered me the front seat, but I'd taken the back, needing space to process everything that had happened. He hadn't argued, just made sure I was comfortable and let me be. By the time we pulled through massive iron gates and up a winding drive, I was exhausted, the kind of bone-deep tired that comes after too much emotion, too much fear, too much everything. The palace was... I didn't have words. Stone and timber and glass, built into the mountainside like it had grown there. Warm light spilled from tall windows. Snow clung to the steep roofs. It looked like something from a fairy tale. "Home," Kale said quietly as he opened my door. I climbed out, my legs unsteady. The cold mountain air bit at my skin, sharp and clean. So different from the city. Different from Marcus's climate-controlled house where everything was artificial and perfect and suffocating. This was wild. Real. A little bit terrifying. Staff appeared quiet, efficient people who took Kale's coat and spoke in low voices. They looked at me with curiosity but no judgment, which was something. "Elena will need a room prepared," Kale told a woman with kind eyes and silver-threaded hair. "The East Wing. Something with morning light, and clothes everything she might need. We'll get specifics tomorrow, but for tonight, basics." The woman nodded. "Of course, Alpha. I'll see to it immediately. Thank you, Margaret." He turned to me. "Hungry?" I realized I was. Starving, actually. I couldn't remember the last time I'd eaten. "Yes. Kitchen first, then. Come on." He led me through halls that seemed to go on forever, past artwork and tapestries and windows that showed the forest beyond. It was beautiful, overwhelming. Nothing like anywhere I'd ever lived. The kitchen was massive, all stainless steel and warm wood. Kale went straight to the refrigerator like he knew his way around. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a stool at the island. I sat and watched, slightly dazed, as the Northern Alpha King made me a sandwich. "You cook?" I asked. "I feed myself." He glanced over his shoulder, that small smile playing at his mouth again. Shocking, I know. A little. He brought over a plate with a sandwich cut into triangles plus fruit and chips. Set it in front of me like an offering. "Eat, you're shaking." I was. I picked up half the sandwich, took a bite. It was good. Simple, just turkey and cheese and fresh bread, but it tasted like the best thing I'd ever eaten. "Thank you," I said quietly. "For the sandwich or for earlier?" "Both. Everything." I set the food down, suddenly too full of emotion to swallow. "I don't understand why you're being so kind to me." Kale pulled out the stool next to mine and sat, angling his body toward me, close but not crowding. "Can I tell you something?" I nodded. "I've been alive for 32 years. I've met thousands of people, hundreds of women, my pack, my council. Everyone has been trying to match me with potential mates for the last decade." He paused. "And I've never felt anything. Not even a spark. I was starting to think maybe I was broken. That maybe the mate bond was just a story, and I'd spend my life alone." His eyes found mine in the dim kitchen light. "Then you walked into that ballroom," he continued softly, "and my entire world shifted. Everything I thought I knew about myself, about what I wanted, about what mattered at all, changed in a heartbeat, because you were there, and you were mine, and nothing else mattered except getting to you." My breath caught. "So when you ask why I'm being kind," he reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away. When I didn't, his hand covered mine on the counter. "It's because you're my mate, Elena. My other half. The person I've been waiting for my entire life without knowing it. Being kind to you isn't a choice. It's as natural as breathing." I stared at our hands. His so much larger, darker against my pale skin, but gentle, always so gentle. "I'm going to mess this up," I whispered. "I don't know how to be with someone who doesn't hurt me. I'm going to flinch when I shouldn't. Apologize for things that don't need apologies. I'm damaged, Kale. You're surviving." His fingers squeezed mine carefully. "And I'm patient. We'll learn together. How to be us. No rush. No pressure. Just time." I looked up at him. At this impossible man who'd appeared out of nowhere and torn my life apart in the best possible way. "I don't know how to do this," I admitted. "Neither do I." His smile was crooked. "Honest. I've never had a mate before. We'll figure it out as we go." And somehow, that made it better. Knowing he was just as new at this as I was, just as uncertain, even if he hid it better. "Okay," I said again. It was becoming our word. The bridge between impossible and possible. "Finish eating," he said gently. "Then I'll show you to your room. Real bed, Real safety, real rest. Everything else can wait until tomorrow. I picked up the sandwich again, took another bite, and for the first time in 6 months, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, tomorrow might actually be better than today. The room Margaret prepared was nothing like what I'd expected. I'd braced myself for opulence. Gold leaf and crystal chandeliers and the kind of overwhelming luxury that reminded you constantly of your place. But this was different. Soft. The walls were a warm cream. The furniture simple but beautiful. A 4-poster bed with white linens that looked like clouds. Windows that stretched floor to ceiling, showing the forest and mountains bathed in moonlight. It felt like a sanctuary. If you need anything, just press this. Cale showed me a button by the bed. Someone will come immediately. Food, water, extra blankets, whatever you need. I nodded, still taking it all in. There was a door to what looked like a bathroom. I could see marble and soft lighting beyond it. Another door that probably led to a closet. More space than I'd had in years. The clothes should be here within the hour, he continued. Margaret's excellent at this kind of thing. And your sister Lily, she'll be here by 8 tomorrow morning. I promise. Thank you. The words felt inadequate for everything he'd done, but they were all I had. Cale lingered in the doorway, his hands shoved in his pockets like he didn't quite know what to do with them. I'm just down the hall, 3rd door on the left. If you need anything, or if you can't sleep, or... He stopped himself. I'm here. That's all. Something about the way he said it, awkward and honest and careful, made my chest ache. Cale, I said as he turned to leave. He looked back immediately. Why did you put me down the hall instead of... I trailed off, heat flooding my face. I mean, we're supposed to be mates. Don't wolves usually... Understanding crossed his features. Usually, yes. Mates share space. Share everything. He leaned against the doorframe, and even that casual movement was graceful, controlled. But you just left an abusive relationship. You need space. Safety. Time to remember who you are without someone controlling every aspect of your life. I won't do that to you, Elena. Won't rush you into something you're not ready for just because biology says we should. My throat went tight. What if I'm never ready? Then we adjust. He said it simply, like it was obvious. I want you, Elena. Make no mistake about that. Want you in every way a mate can want their other half. But I want you willing, eager, sure, not scared or obligated, or thinking you owe me something. You just gave up everything to save me. I didn't give up anything. His eyes were intense in the low light. I gained everything. You think I care about Marcus's political alliances? His hurt pride? None of that matters. You matter. And I can wait as long as you need me to. I didn't know what to say to that. Didn't have words for the feeling spreading through my chest, warm and terrifying and precious all at once. Good night, Elena, he said softly. Good night. He pulled the door closed behind him, and I was alone. Art. I didn't sleep. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, my brain replayed the evening. Marcus's face. The ring coming off. Cale's voice saying mine. The way he'd knelt in front of me like I was something sacred instead of something broken. Around 3 a.m, I gave up. Wrapped myself in the thick robe Margaret had left and padded to the window. The moon was full, casting silver light across the snow. The forest was dark beyond, dense with shadows and secrets. I pressed my palm against the cold glass. 24 hours ago, I'd been planning what to make Marcus for dinner, rehearsing the right things to say, the right expressions to wear, thinking about how to keep Lily safe for one more day, one more week, one more month. Now I was in a palace, free, protected, with a man who called me his mate and looked at me like I hung the stars. It didn't feel real. I heard the soft knock before the door opened a crack. Can't sleep either? Cale's voice was rough with tiredness. I turned. He was in the doorway wearing sleep pants and a t-shirt, his hair messed up like he'd been running his hands through it. Even rumpled and exhausted, he was devastating. Too much in my head, I admitted. Yeah. He hesitated. Can I come in? I won't stay if you don't want me to, but please. He crossed the room to stand beside me at the window, close enough that I could feel his warmth but not touching. Always so careful about touching. We stood in silence for a moment, just looking out at the moonlit landscape. This is real, right? I asked quietly. This isn't some elaborate dream I'm going to wake up from. It's real. His reflection in the glass met mine. You're here. You're safe. You're free. Because of you. Because you were brave enough to accept help when it was offered. He paused. That takes strength, Elena. More than you know. I turned to face him properly. This close, I could see the flecks of silver in his gray eyes. Could count his eyelashes if I wanted to. Could see the exhaustion etched into his features. You should be sleeping, I said. So should you. I keep thinking he's going to show up, Marcus. That he's going to find a way to... My voice cracked. I know you said he can't hurt me anymore, but I can't stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. Cale's jaw tightened. He won't get near you. I've had guards posted around the entire property. Around Lily. Around everywhere you might be. If he so much as thinks about approaching you, I'll know about it before he takes 2 steps. You can't protect me forever. Watch me. The certainty in his voice should have felt oppressive. Instead, it felt like shelter. Why? The question came out raw. Why me, Cale? I'm nobody. I'm human. I'm everything. He turned to face me fully now, and the intensity in his expression stole my breath. You're everything, Elena. The moment I saw you, something in me just knew. Like I'd been walking around incomplete my entire life, and suddenly all the pieces fell into place. That's the mate bond talking. Maybe. He lifted one shoulder. But I don't think biology can account for the way my chest aches when you cry, or the way I want to destroy anyone who's ever hurt you, or the fact that I've known you for less than 12 hours and I already can't imagine my life without you in it. My heart was doing that thing again. Racing, stuttering, betraying every self-protective instinct I'd developed. I don't know how to do this, I whispered. How to be someone's mate. How to be loved. I'm not sure I do either. His honesty was disarming. But I want to learn. With you, if you'll let me. The space between us felt charged. Electric. Like the air before a storm. I made a decision. Maybe it was reckless. Maybe it was too fast. Maybe I'd regret it in the morning. But standing there in the moonlight, looking at this man who'd torn apart his political relationships to save me, who'd promised to protect my sister, who'd given me space when he could have demanded closeness, I wanted to know what it felt like, just once. I lifted up on my toes and kissed him. For a heartbeat, Cale went absolutely still, frozen, like he couldn't quite believe what was happening. Then his hands came up to frame my face, gentle and sure, and he pulled back just enough to look at me. His eyes were searching, intense. Elena, his voice was rough, strained. Are you sure? Because if we start this, I'm sure. My hands fisted in his t-shirt. Please, Cale, I didn't have words for what I needed. But apparently, I didn't need them. Okay, he breathed against my lips. Okay, sweetheart, I've got you. Then he kissed me back, and the world caught fire. It wasn't gentle, wasn't careful or tentative or any of the things I'd expected. It was consuming, desperate, like he'd been holding back a tidal wave and I'd just broken the dam. His mouth moved against mine with a hunger that should have scared me. But I wasn't scared. I was alive. More alive than I'd felt in years, maybe ever. I kissed him harder, pressing closer, needing more of this feeling that was burning through my veins like lightning. His hands slid from my face to my hair, tangling in the strands, tilting my head to deepen the kiss. A sound escaped me, something between a gasp and a moan. Cale growled. Actually growled, the sound vibrating from his chest into mine. His arms wrapped around my waist, lifting me slightly, pulling me flush against him. I could feel everything. The solid muscle of his body, the rapid beat of his heart, the barely restrained power thrumming under his skin. And I wanted more. My hands found their way under his shirt, splaying across the heated skin of his back. He shuddered at the contact, his kiss growing more demanding, more possessive. "Mine," he murmured against my lips. "You're mine, Elena." "Yes." The word came out breathless. "Certain. Yours." Something in him seemed to snap at that. He walked me backward until my back hit the wall beside the window. Not hard, never hard, but purposeful, caging me in with his body while his mouth did devastating things to mine. I'd been kissed before. Marcus had kissed me. But those had been performances, exercises in control and ownership that had nothing to do with desire. This was different. This was Cale pouring every ounce of want and need and barely restrained hunger into the connection between us. This was claiming and being claimed in the same breath. This was what I'd been aching for without knowing it. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. His forehead rested against mine, his hands still bracketing my face like he couldn't bear to stop touching me. "That was," he started. "Everything," I finished. He laughed, low and rough. "Yeah, everything." We stood there for a long moment, just breathing each other's air, letting the intensity settle into something softer, sweeter. "I should let you sleep," he said eventually, but he didn't move. "Stay." The word came out before I could think better of it. Just I don't want to be alone." His eyes softened. "Okay, if you're sure." "I'm sure." He kissed me again, gently this time. A promise instead of a demand. Then he took my hand and led me to the massive bed. We lay down on top of the covers, and he pulled me against his chest, wrapping his arms around me like I was something precious. I pressed my ear to his heartbeat. Strong, steady, real. "Tell me something," I said into the darkness. "Something true. Something you don't tell people." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I lost someone once. A long time ago. My younger brother." I lifted my head to look at him. His eyes were distant, pained. Reckless kid, thought he was invincible. Went out during a territory dispute when I told him to stay put. He swallowed hard. "They sent me back pieces. Cale." I blamed myself for years. Still do sometimes. Thought if I'd been stronger, faster, better, maybe I could have saved him. Maybe I could have prevented it. His arms tightened around me. After that, I stopped letting people in. Built walls so high nothing could get through. Told myself it was safer that way. That I couldn't lose what I didn't have. "And now," I whispered, "now I look at you and I'm terrified." His honesty was brutal, beautiful. "Because losing you would destroy me, Elena. Completely." And I barely survived losing him. I reached up, cupping his face the way he'd cupped mine. "I'm not going anywhere." "You can't promise that." "Yes, I can." I held his gaze. "I'm choosing you, Cale. Every day. Every moment. I'm choosing this. Us. Whatever we're becoming." Something in his expression cracked open. "I don't deserve you." "Maybe not." I smiled slightly. "But you've got me anyway." He kissed me then. Soft and deep and full of things we didn't have words for yet. When he pulled back, his eyes were wet. "I'm not your reward," I said gently. "And you're not my savior. We're just two people who found each other when we needed it most." "My redemption," he murmured. "No." I shook my head. "Your partner, if you'll have me, if I'll—" He laughed, the sound thick with emotion. "Elena, I'd give you the world if you asked for it." "I don't want the world." I settled back against his chest. "I just want this. You, me, Lily safe. A chance to figure out who I am without fear. Done." His hand stroked through my hair, gentle and rhythmic. "All of it. Whatever you need." We fell quiet after that. His heartbeat under my ear, his warmth surrounding me, his presence making me feel safer than I'd felt in years. And somewhere between one breath and the next, I finally fell asleep. Ender 12. Morning came with sunlight streaming through those floor-to-ceiling windows. I woke slowly, aware of warmth and safety and the smell of pine and winter, It took me a moment to remember where I was, to remember everything that had happened. Kale was still there, still holding me like even in sleep he couldn't let go. I studied his face in the gentle light, the strong lines of his jaw, the way his dark lashes rested against his cheeks. He looked younger like this, less like the formidable alpha, and more like just a man who'd chosen me. His eyes opened, immediately finding mine. No grogginess, no disorientation, just instant awareness. "Morning," he said, his voice rough with sleep. A smile tugged at his mouth. "Sleep okay?" "Better than I have in months." I paused. "You?" "Best sleep of my life." He brushed a strand of hair from my face. "Lily will be here soon. You ready?" Fear and hope warred in my chest. What if she's angry? What if she doesn't understand why She'll understand. His confidence was unshakable. "You did everything to protect her. She'll see that." I hoped he was right. An hour later, showered, dressed in clothes that actually fit. Fed, I stood in the palace's main hall waiting. Kale was beside me. Not hovering, just present. A steady warmth at my back. Then the doors opened, and Lily ran in. She looked whole, unhurt, her dark hair flying behind her, her eyes wide and scared and relieved all at once. "Elena!" she cried. I met her halfway, catching her in my arms as she crashed into me. We both started crying immediately, those messy, overwhelming tears that come when fear finally releases its grip. "I thought he hurt you," she sobbed into my shoulder. "When those men came and said I had to leave, that you were in danger, I thought, I'm okay." I held her tighter. "I'm okay, Lily. We're okay." She pulled back, looking at me with those eyes so like our mother's. "What happened? Where are we? Who?" Her gaze landed on Kale, and she straightened slightly, wary. "This is Kale," I said softly. He's my mate." "Your what?" I'd explained the basics of the shifter world to her before, enough that she wouldn't be completely lost. But this was different. "He's my person," I tried again. "The one I'm meant to be with." And he helped me leave Marcus. Understanding and relief washed over her face. "Marcus is gone? You're not marrying him?" "No, never." I showed her my left hand, bare. "I'm free." She looked between us. Then, before I could prepare myself, she launched herself at Kale. To his credit, he caught her easily, his arms coming up to steady her as she hugged him fiercely. "Thank you," she said, muffled against his chest. "Thank you for saving my sister." I watched Kale's expression soften, watched him hold my baby sister with the same careful gentleness he showed me. "You don't have to thank me," he said. "Protecting Elena, protecting you, that's my privilege, not my burden." Lily pulled back, wiping her eyes. Then she looked at me with a mischievous expression I hadn't seen in months. "So," she said, "you live in a palace now?" I laughed. Actually laughed. "Apparently. Do I get to visit?" "You get to stay," Kale said before I could answer. "As long as you want. There's plenty of room. And you're family now." The word family hit me square in the chest. Lily grinned. Then she leaned in close to me and whispered loud enough for Kale to definitely hear. "He's hot, by the way. Good job." "Lily!" My face flamed. She just laughed and hugged me again. And standing there with my sister in my arms and Kale watching us both with that soft expression, I felt something I thought I'd lost. Hope. Real, tangible hope for the future. 3 days later, Kale asked me to stand beside him. Not as decoration, not as property, as his equal. "There's a gathering," he explained as we walked through the palace gardens. "The council, the pack leaders. It's tradition when an alpha finds his mate, she's presented to the court." My stomach nodded. Presented sounds like I'm a trophy. "You're not." He stopped walking, turning to face me. "You're my queen, Elena, and I want them to know it. Want them to see you the way I see you. I don't know how to be a queen. Neither did I know how to be a king when I started." His hand found mine, fingers lacing together. "We'll learn together." What if they don't accept me? I'm human. I'm nobody. You're mine. He said it firmly. And that makes you everything. But, he gentled his voice. If you're not ready, we wait. This is your choice, Elena. Always your choice. I thought about that. About choice. About the fact that for the first time in my life, I actually had one. About how Kale had given me space, time, freedom to breathe and heal and remember who I was. About how he'd protected Lily. How he'd destroyed Marcus's hold on me without asking for anything in return. About how he looked at me like I was the answer to every question he'd ever asked. Okay, I said. Okay, I'll stand with you. I squeezed his hand. Not because I have to, because I want to. The smile that broke across his face was blinding. Ardab, the great hall was packed. Wolves from every pack, territory leaders, council members, all of them dressed in formal attire. All of them watching as Kale led me to the front of the room. I was wearing a dress Margaret had found simple but elegant, deep green that made my eyes brighter. My hair was down, tumbling over my shoulders the way Kale said he liked it. I was terrified, but I was also sure. Kale stood before his people, and his voice carried through the hall when he spoke. Most of you know why we're here. Some of you have heard rumors. Let me make it clear. He turned to me, and the look in his eyes made my breath catch. This is Elena Thorne. My mate, my chosen, my equal. He paused, letting the words sink in. She is brave beyond measure, strong beyond belief, and she has my heart completely, irrevocably, without reservation. Then he did something that made the entire room gasp. He knelt. The Northern Alpha King, the most powerful shifter in 3 territories, went down on one knee before me. You saved me, he said quietly, looking up at me with those storm-gray eyes, when I didn't even know I needed saving. You reminded me what it means to care for someone more than power or politics. You made me want to be better. Not for the pack, not for the crown, for you. Tears were streaming down my face. I'm asking you to stand beside me, he continued. Not as my possession, as my partner, my queen, my everything. Will you have me, Elena? The hall was silent, waiting. I looked at this man who'd given me freedom when he could have demanded obedience, who'd protected my sister like she was his own, who'd shown me that love didn't have to hurt. I dropped to my knees in front of him. Yes, I said, 1,000 times yes. And I kissed him, right there in front of everyone, claiming him as publicly as he'd claimed me, showing his entire court that this was real, this was chosen, this was us. The hall erupted in cheers, but I barely heard them, because I was kissing my mate, my partner, my future, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of what came next. The celebration lasted hours. Music and laughter and endless streams of people congratulating us, welcoming me, trying to get to know the human who'd somehow captured their king's heart. I smiled until my face hurt, shook hands until my fingers went numb, and tried to remember names I'd probably forget by morning. Through it all, Kale stayed close, not hovering but present, a steady anchor in the chaos. His hand would find the small of my back when the crowd pressed too close. His eyes would meet mine across the room, checking in without words. And every time I looked at him, my chest did this strange fluttering thing that I was starting to recognize as happiness. Real happiness. Not the performance I'd perfected with Marcus. This was something genuine, something mine, something I'd chosen. Lily was having the time of her life. I watched her charm half the younger pack members, laughing and talking like she'd been part of this world forever. She caught my eye at one point and grinned, giving me a thumbs up that made me laugh despite my exhaustion. She was safe, happy, free. We both were. You're thinking too loud, Kale murmured in my ear, making me jump slightly. Just taking it all in. I leaned into him without thinking, seeking his warmth. Is it always like this? Only when the Alpha King finally finds his mate after 32 years of everyone thinking he was going to die alone and grumpy. His lips brushed my temple. So no, definitely not always like this. How much longer do we have to stay? He pulled back to look at me, concern flickering across his features. Tired? Overwhelmed, I admitted. In a good way, but I think I've hit my limit for crowds and small talk. Understanding softened his expression. We can leave whenever you want. This is for us, Elena, not them. If you're done, we're done. The fact that he didn't hesitate didn't make me feel guilty for wanting to leave my own celebration. It meant everything. 5 more minutes? I suggested. So it doesn't seem like we're running away? Done. He pressed a kiss to my forehead. Though fair warning, they're all going to assume we're running away to consummate the bond anyway. Heat flooded my face. Kale. His grin was wicked. What? It's traditional. We don't have to do anything traditional. I know. His hand cupped my cheek, thumb brushing across my skin with that devastating gentleness. We do what feels right for us. Nothing more, nothing less. Those 5 minutes stretched into 10, then 15. But finally, Kale made our excuses to the pack leaders still lingering, and we slipped away into the quiet halls beyond the great room. The sudden silence was almost jarring after hours of noise. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. My feet were killing me in these heels Margaret had found. My dress, while beautiful, felt constraining now, and my head was spinning with everything that had happened, the ceremony, the acceptance, the overwhelming reality that this was my life now. Come on, Kale said softly, taking my hand. I want to show you something. He led me through the palace, down corridors I hadn't explored yet, until we reached a heavy wooden door. He pushed it open, revealing a room that made me gasp. It was a bedroom, but not like the guest room I'd been staying in. This was clearly his space. Dark wood furniture, a massive bed with deep blue bedding, floor-to-ceiling windows showing the moonlit mountains. But what caught my attention was the fireplace, already lit and casting dancing shadows across the walls, and the fact that the room was filled with things that were unmistakably mine. My favorite books, the ones from Marcus's house that I thought I'd lost, photographs of Lily and me from before everything went wrong, a blanket my mother had made before she died, the one I'd thought was gone forever. How? My voice broke. I sent people to collect your things, Kale explained quietly. The things that mattered. The things that were yours, not his. He paused. I had them brought here, to our room, if you want it, if you're ready. Our room. Not his, not mine, ours. I turned to look at him, this man who kept finding ways to show me that love didn't have to be control. That partnership could mean consideration instead of demands. You didn't assume, I said, wonder threading through my words. You could have just moved me in here, claimed it as your right as my mate, but you asked. Always. His eyes were serious, intent. I'll always ask, Elena. Your autonomy, your choices, your comfort, they matter more to me than tradition or expectations or what anyone thinks we should do. I crossed the space between us, standing close enough to feel his warmth. What if I said yes? His breath caught. Yes, to what? To this room. To us sharing space. I lifted my hand to his chest, feeling his heart thunder beneath my palm. To everything, Kale. What if I said yes to all of it? Then I'd ask if you're sure. His hands came up to frame my face, that now familiar gesture that made me feel cherished, protected. I'd ask if you're choosing this because you want it, or because you think you're supposed to. I want it. The truth of it rang through me, clear as bells. I want this, want you. Want to fall asleep in your arms and wake up knowing I'm safe. I want to learn what it means to be loved by someone who sees me as an equal. I want... My voice went thick with emotion. I want to stop being afraid of happiness. Elena. My name on his lips sounded like a prayer. I'm not asking for perfect, I continued. I know I'm going to have bad days. I know I'm going to flinch sometimes or have nightmares or struggle with things that seem simple to everyone else. But I want to do that here, with you, if you'll have me. If I'll... He made a sound between a laugh and a sob. Sweetheart, I'd have you any way you came to me. Broken or whole. scared or brave, ready or not. You're mine. You've been mine since the moment I saw you. Then he kissed me, soft and deep and full of promise. His hand slid into my hair, tilting my head to deepen the connection. I melted into him, letting his strength hold me up, letting myself feel every ounce of want and need and love pouring between us. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. "Help me out of this dress," I whispered. His eyes darkened, pupils expanding until only a ring of gray remained. "You sure?" "I'm sure." He turned me gently, his fingers finding the zipper at my back. He drew it down slowly, carefully, like unwrapping something precious. The dress loosened, and I let it fall, pooling at my feet in a whisper of fabric. I stood there in just my slip, suddenly nervous despite everything. Cale made a rough sound in his throat. "You're so beautiful it hurts to look at you." "I have bruises." The words came out small, ashamed. "From Marcus. They're fading, but I know." His fingers traced over my arm where the worst of the marks were. His touch was feather, light, reverent. "And when I look at them, all I see is how strong you are. How you survived something that should have broken you. You're not damaged, Elena. You're a warrior." Tears pricked at my eyes. "I don't feel like a warrior." "You don't have to." He turned me back to face him, and the look in his eyes was fierce, protective. "That's my job, to see you for who you really are, even when you can't see it yourself." He stripped off his own formal jacket, then his shirt, until we were standing in the firelight wearing barely anything, skin to skin, heart to heart. No performance, no pretending, just us. "Come here," he said softly, guiding me toward the bed. We lay down together, tangling up in each other and the soft sheets. His arms wrapped around me, pulling me close until my head rested over his heart. The steady rhythm soothed something deep inside me that had been jangling and afraid for so long. "I love you," he said into the quiet darkness. "I know it's fast. I know we barely know each other, but I love you, Elena, completely, without reservation." My breath hitched. No one's ever said that to me before. Not like that. Not like they meant it. "I mean it." His hand stroked through my hair, gentle and rhythmic. "I'll mean it every day for the rest of our lives." I tilted my head up to look at him. "I think I'm falling in love with you too. It scares me. How fast this is. How much I already need you. I'm not going anywhere." His lips brushed my forehead. "You're stuck with me, sweetheart. For better or worse. Through the nightmares and the healing. Through every moment, you need to remember how to trust that love doesn't have to hurt. Promise? I swear it on my life. On my crown. On everything I am." He pulled back just enough to meet my eyes. "You're not my possession, Elena. You're my partner, my equal. And I will spend every day proving to you that you made the right choice in choosing me." A tear slipped down my cheek. "I didn't lose anything when I chose you. I gained everything. We gained each other. And that was it, wasn't it? The truth at the heart of everything. I hadn't been rescued. I'd been given a choice. And I'd chosen partnership. Chosen someone who saw my strength instead of my brokenness. Chosen love that built me up instead of tearing me down. The ring that once trapped me was gone, thrown away that first night, like the prison it had always been. And in its place was something invisible, but infinitely stronger. A bond forged not in ownership but in mutual respect, in trust earned and freely given, in the decision to stand beside someone not because you had to, but because you wanted to. "What are you thinking?" Cale asked, his voice rough with exhaustion and emotion. I smiled against his skin. "That I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." "Yeah?" "Yeah." I pressed a kiss over his heart. "I didn't lose my freedom when the Alpha King claimed me, Cale. I found it." His arms tightened around me, and I felt him press his face into my hair. "I'm going to make sure you never regret this. Never regret us. I already know I won't." We lay there in the firelight, wrapped in each other, and the quiet certainty of what we'd become. Outside, the wind whispered through the pines. Inside, the fire crackled softly, casting dancing shadows on the walls. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, I wasn't afraid of what tomorrow would bring. Because tomorrow I'd wake up in Kale's arms. Tomorrow Lily would be safe and happy down the hall. Tomorrow I'd start learning what it meant to be a queen, not because someone forced a crown on my head, but because I'd chosen to stand beside a king who treated me like I already wore one. Tomorrow, and every day after, I'd be free. Really, truly free. Not because someone had saved me, but because I'd finally saved myself. And in doing so, I'd found something I never expected. I'd found home. I'd found love. I'd found him. Elena? Kale's voice was soft, already blurring with sleep. Thank you. I lifted my head slightly. For what? For trusting me. For choosing us. For being brave enough to accept help when you needed it most. His eyes were already closed, his breathing evening out. For being you. I settled back against his chest, letting his heartbeat lull me towards sleep. Thank you for seeing me, I whispered back. The real me, not the scared girl, not the broken thing, just me. His response was barely audible, mumbled against my hair as sleep finally claimed him. Always saw you, sweetheart, from the very first moment. You were impossible to miss. I smiled into the darkness, and as I drifted off to sleep safe, protected, loved, I thought about that ring, that cold circle of metal that had marked me as property. And I thought about the invisible bond that connected me to Kale now, the one that felt warm instead of cold, liberating instead of constraining. A bond I'd chosen, a bond that meant partnership instead of ownership, a bond that whispered promises of tomorrow instead of threats. I'd spent months believing I had no choices left, that my life had been decided for me and all I could do was survive it. I'd been wrong, because here I was, in the arms of a man who'd given me the most precious gift anyone had ever given me. Not wealth, not safety, not even love, though that was part of it. He'd given me back my autonomy, my right to choose, my freedom to be exactly who I wanted to be. And I'd chosen this, chosen him, chosen us. The ring was gone, but I'd never been more committed to anything in my life. Thank you for listening to another emotional, magical shifter romance here on Tina Romance Library. If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, so you never miss more powerful, heart-gripping romance stories.